Well, hello, how is everyone? I hope you are all well. Now, I'm guessing that not everyone is well for the obvious reasons. I'm across the pond in the UK, and I felt it. I felt the reverberations of the death of Charlie Kirk, and as of recording this video, there is still a manhunt looking for the individual that executed Charlie while he was on a college campus in Utah. And look, I get that there's two types of person, two camps, if you like. There's the camp that obviously think this is fucking deserved, and the others who don't. and as I've done, I think 3 community feed posts, it's very clear that there is a proportion of people who think that this is okay. And I was looking at the comments, and I'm not going to go through the comments. If you've been following it, you'll know that some of the fucking comments are just absolutely grotesque. But one did stick out, and it was this comment here. And it was he died because inclusive, tolerant, democratic, and understanding people didn't like him. And that's the point, isn't it? It's Charlie Kirk was killed ultimately by an individual that didn't agree with what Charlie said. And I feel, even just talking to certain individuals over the last few hours, the downside is, and we see it not just in political speak, but we also see it in the other topics that we cover. A lot of it is misinterpretation. People will listen to what someone says, but they don't fully understand what the person is saying and why they're saying it. And they come at it from a defensive viewpoint. So immediately, before the person has opened their mouth to speak, they have already got in their mind that what this individual's saying, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what this individual's saying. I don't like this individual, and what they're saying is wrong. And look, what I will say is I'm not sitting here saying that I agreed with every single thing that Charlie Kirk said, because that would be wrong. Some of it that he said, I have no viewpoint on at all. I simply don't care. And maybe that's the wrong thing to say. I'm going to put my glasses on. Look more intelligent. But one thing I will say is Charlie Kirk would say that he didn't, I don't know whether it was he didn't like people who had nose rings, for instance, and I have one. I have one here. Look. So I could turn around and say, well, fuck Charlie Kirk then. If he doesn't like people who have nose studs in, then I don't want to listen to anything that he's got to say. And I could go as far as saying, in the aftermath of this horrendous fucking act, oh, well, he deserved it. He deserved it because he ostracized those that had nose rings. Just think of the fucking stupidity of that. The thing is here is Charlie Kirk had views, and he expressed those views with kindness and with an open mic. He would go on to college campuses and he would give people the opportunity to speak all the time. He debated loads of people over countless years, and he did it respectfully. He wasn't ever violent, even though some would say that his stance on certain topics would say that he supported certain violence. I know that his stance on your right to bear arms in the US, for instance, is a very fucking grey area. And my interpretation of Charlie Kirk's viewpoint on that, and I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying this is my interpretation of it, coming from someone who doesn't come from the US. I've got family in the US, but I don't come from the US. And that is that you have civil liberties in the US. You have fundamental rights that are given to you, and one of them is the right to bear arms. And the downside of that is that you have evil people in the world, and they then have access to things to carry out atrocities. But what is the alternative? The alternative is to remove that right and say, okay, because there's evil people in the world, we are going to take that right away from you, because that will then stop this from happening. When in reality, it doesn't. You know, evil people don't become better people because the rights of non-evil people have been diminished. And I think that was the point that Charlie was trying to put across. It was that by diminishing the rights of good people, you don't then change the inherent nature of evil people. They will just adapt and overcome, and they'll do something else. You know, we see it in the UK. We're a much smaller country than the US, obviously, but you think that our children are safe. You think that our children are not killed because we don't have the right to bear arms, because I can tell you now, you are gravely mistaken. You just don't hear about it so much, you don't see it so much, and it's a different type of heinous act that is carried out upon them. Evil kind of works around what it's got to work with, the tools that it has. But you're not going to change the inherent nature of evil people who want to do evil things by diminishing the rights of those good, decent, honest people. And I think that was my interpretation of his viewpoint. And look, I'm not saying I'm right. That was my interpretation. But this is a tragedy. The loss of Charlie Kirk is not a good thing. It isn't a good thing. It just proves the point that you can't have a difference of opinion and publicly voice that opinion, because you're going to piss someone off. And sadly, the likelihood is if you piss people off and you're in the public, then you're in danger. It's putting you in danger. And don't think that we don't have people in this country that are similar to Charlie Kirk in the ideologies that they have, and they're not in as much danger, because they are, and that danger comes from various different places as well. And if you're from the UK, you'll probably know who I'm talking about. And why I can't say so much about it is because we in the UK, the country that founded free speech, simply doesn't have it anymore. We don't have it. Imagine that. Imagine living in a country where you can say something on Facebook in a very, very heated moment when children have been executed. Again, we don't have the right to bear arms, but I'm talking about an actual situation where an individual who had lost a child themselves had uploaded a post onto social media that was basically voicing the fact that they didn't care if the individuals who were involved in this crime or they felt was around this situation, if harm came to them, they found themselves in prison for a long period of time. I say long, around 2 years. Was the sentence that was handed down. So this is the country that we live in, where we can't really voice an opinion. We don't have free speech. We have an illusion of free speech, as long as that free speech is not hurty words and upset somebody. And I have to, again, be careful of where I'm going with this. But you guys, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Yes, Charlie Kirk may have said things that you didn't agree with, you didn't like, but did that really and honestly mean that he should be condemned to death and be executed in front of his wife and children? Is that what we're saying? Because that seems to be what a certain group of people feel is right. Now, the funny thing is, some of these comments, what I've seen, if they said them in this country, they would be arrested and likely end up in prison. But they can, because they're US citizens, they can go onto social media and pretty much voice whatever they want, however heinous and grotesque that is. And again, this is about an individual who spoke about the things that he believed in. He was a deeply religious individual and he had certain views. Some of them views were based on the fact that he was a religious individual. Some of the things that he said came from a different place. But again, he had an open mic system where he would allow people to have a discussion with him, and he debated people with absolute a humbleness to listen and allow them the platform. Yes, he would sometimes shoot people down in flames, and sometimes those people would literally deserve to be shot down in flames because the very things that they said would just came. It came from a place of utter stupidity. But he allowed them to have their moment and have their and speak about what they wanted to speak about, and to argue their point across. And that has now gone. That person now no longer exists. Someone who just went around and spoke to people and spoke to them about his beliefs, their beliefs, and had an open mic, was executed because an individual, one of many individuals, but this individual wanted to silence him, to shut him up. But I put a post and I saw someone else had put it. It's a saying, and it says, just by ripping the tongue of a man out, it doesn't prove that they are lying or what they have to say isn't right. It just proves that you're scared and afraid of what that individual is saying. And this action, the question is now, will it martyr him? Will it prove the point that he was trying to make? That those that he argued against frequently, the people that claim that they are the better people, the more inclusive, as we saw in that comment, the more inclusive, the more tolerant, the more democratic, the more understanding. But they're so that their answer to this is this person, because they're saying stuff that I don't want to hear, deserves to die. It's a fucked up world that we live in. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how you're going to overcome it. I just don't. But this is a sad day. Bearing in mind that this is also 9/11, which takes you back to 2001 with that huge, massive tragedy as well. You've now got this on top of it. I just don't get it. Well, I do get it. I do get it because, again, I see it in even other topics, even in true crime, when we talk about true crime. And I see people who they will agree with you all the way through and say how amazing you are. Brilliant. Oh, yeah, you're wonderful. You say one fucking thing. One thing, like yesterday, for instance, I'd done that video about Brian Koberger and the selfies and the topless selfies, and I simply raised the fact that even though we was missing the context of it, which I said is very, very important to have context. So we don't know when them photographs were taken. We don't know any context about them. We just see that their photographs are a snapshot. So ultimately, we can't really say a massive amount about them. But if the context is, in fact, that these photographs were taken after the crimes, then they do look a bit odd. They're not just him at school, at college, at hiking or anything like that. These are selfies done after a mass murder had occurred, and he has taken selfies without his top on, and he's got clear injuries on his hands. So you can't ignore it. And the amount of abuse that I got for that from people who up to that point had been supportive. I said one thing that they didn't agree with, and it's attack. It's abuse. And that's the thing, isn't it? And that's just that. So when you magnify that into the political arena, you can see how people get fucking worked up because someone's saying something that they don't like, and how angry and upset they get. But that says a lot more about them. It says a lot more about them. If you are a person who can't listen to someone saying something that you don't like and just be like, I get it, they've got a different viewpoint than me, and that's their God-given right to not think like me. Yes, we can have a debate and we can discuss, but ultimately, does it matter? If you can't do that, then you're a fucking prick. Love you all. Mwah.